The war film genre of New Vision has specific criteria for the representation of authority, combat, and purpose. In this type of film, the authority is relatable, the combat is gory and unclear, and the higher purpose is questioned. I watched The Hurt Locker, directed by Kathryn Bigelow in 2008, and it is about an Iraq War explosive ordnance disposal team. I chose events from the time frame of 1998 to 2008. In terms of authority, I can clearly see how the authority is treated as a regular, low ranking, relatable soldier. In the film, the soldiers do not listen to their friend like leader. Specifically, there is a scene where the sergeant says to his inferior, James, James, we need to get out of here. And James replies, Roger that, and then doesn't move and then removes his headset. The authority figure is being questioned because he is seen by his men as so inferior that they don't listen to him. The authority figure gets questioned by the viewer because if he cannot control his men, how is he going to properly direct a group of soldiers? A real-life event that parallels this situation is the questioning of the government when Hurricane Katrina hit August 23, 2005. The government's lack of urgency led to many deaths. The White House never appointed a coordinator to monitor disaster developments. Officials sounded no alarm until the city had been flooding for at least 24 hours. The government is prepared for catastrophe, but was too relaxed to act fast. This led to much questioning of authority and raised questions about how the government would be able to run a country in a smooth manner if they can't handle one disaster properly and with power. In terms of combat, I can clearly see the gory and unclear actions occurring in the film. There were many moments where I was cringing watching the bloody, unbelievable scenes. Along with the gore, the unclearness of the combat was something that I took many notes on. The camera angles were oftentimes from a view of a soldier's eye through the gun, right next to the soldiers, like in here, or just super up close, like this one, or the view of the enemy. It is rare to get a clear, distinct view of the combat and see where all of the gunshots are coming from. In the film, the enemy killed a young boy that the main character had a big brother relationship with. They didn't just stop when they killed him. They cut him open and placed bombs inside of his body. The main character then had to disarm the bombs and cut the wires that were inside of the bloody body of the young boy that he had built this relationship with. We don't see this type of gore on television when we watch the news about wars and bombings. The combat is also very unclear in this film. There are many confusing moments without dialogue to help. For example, a mysterious man ran down the stairs and dropped a cell phone on the steps near the soldiers, and then the movie continued, never mentioning who the man was or what he dropped or why he was there, which just leads to a lot of confusion for the viewer of the movie. Also, the viewer and the soldiers cannot see where gunshots and snipes are coming from when they are getting attacked, and they shoot into what seems like thin air at the enemy. This reminds me of the real-life event of the bombing of Iraq in December in 1998, which are these pictures. This was a gory, brutal 4-day bombing on Iraqi targets. The U.S. bombed because of Iraq's failure to follow our requests. This bombing came as a surprise to the Iraqi targets, so it was unclear and vulnerable. It was an unclear and vulnerable moment for the Iraq, people and the U.S., just like depicted in the film. And in terms of purpose, I can clearly see that the higher purpose and priorities are questioned in the film. The intentions of the soldiers are unclear to the viewer and even more so to the civilians of Iraq. For example, when the soldiers drive through the neighborhoods, the civilians glare at them like, "Why are you in our country?" The purpose is unclear. I don't understand why U.S. soldiers are hunting down bombs that haven't exploded that aren't even in their own country. So that was my confusion. So much trust from Americans and the government is being put in the hands of these soldiers to do good and stop the bad guys from harming the country. This reminds me of the trust that was put into the government's hands after the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. George W. Bush had, unlike in this film, a very clear priority, and he said that disarming Iraq was a priority because there was much vulnerability following 9/11 with Iraq's claims of manufacturing weapons of mass destruction. Americans felt close after 9/11 because they could all only do one thing: trust the government and the national decisions that were being made. And this is my bibliography.